steps to keep Lord Vishnu's instructions, which was to keep his space guarded and sacred, and only a pure devotee could enter. So Jai and Vijay were taking this responsibility very seriously. So in their mind, when the four Kumars came and requested entrance, they were rejected by Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay, of course, felt that they were doing the right thing. Of course, the four Kumars, being very exalted in their right of being very elevated Brahmins, they were very elevated sages in the sense that they were following the regulative principles perfectly. They were only dedicating their life to spiritual activities. They even disobeyed their own father, who had told them to go out and populate and create progeny. They even went against that as well, so that they could, live in a higher consciousness of only living their life for spiritual knowledge. So there's a lot of gyan in their path and in their process. So they took that very seriously. They took that knowledge. However, they still didn't develop the pure devotional service. They were accepting all of those regulations. They were accepting all of the austerities. They were great sages, great elevated sages, but they still were not of the pure devotional service level, which the pure devotional service means that they are not just following the rules and regulations, but they are doing it for the purpose of serving the Lord and pleasing the Lord. And although they had heard so much about the Lord through their father, this is the gyan portion of it. They hadn't truly brought that into their heart to develop a loving relationship and a devotional relationship with Lord Vishnu. So this is where this situation has two very interesting sides to it. So we have Jai and Vijay, who felt that they were doing their duty of keeping the four Kumars out. Because as it was pointed out yesterday, the four Kumars were naked, they were approaching, they were just coming as children, even though they were that was their permanent physical stature, but they were actually very elevated sages. But they were presenting in ways that would not seem appropriate to come to the Lord. Secondly, they were not, and Jai and Vijay knew this, they were not devotees. They were not pure devotees of the Lord, which is all that were allowed to enter through the gates. So, however, the four Kumars, being great sages, were very much offended. Their father's Lord Brahma, who is the greatest of all devotees of the Lord. And so they were very much offended by their lack of entrance in to see and to meet Lord Vishnu. So this created quite a challenging situation here, and you can kind of see how this is all unfolding. When you have two friends that are close to you, and they get in an argument, and they both come to you, and they both have their perspectives, right? So, and you're like, I can see their side. I can see their side too. Wow, this is really challenging because you don't want to take sides necessarily, but you can absolutely see both sides of the situation. And this is also a very interesting scenario where both sides have their points. And so Lord Vishnu steps in. So I'm kind of just recapping the scene here. Lord Vishnu steps in, and now we've got the Lord is involved. Okay, the Lord he's now been pulled into the scene, as you could say, like someone called dad, and said, figure this out, sort this out. The four Kumars are pointing their fingers saying they didn't let us in, they created a great offense. And Jai and Vijay, the gatekeepers, were like, well, they aren't, from what we've been told, they're not qualified to enter. So the Lord Vishnu has to come in and settle the score and make a decision, which anybody who is a parent with more than one child, I'm sure can attest to the fact that when your kids get in a fight, you have to try and make a decision, and that's not always easy, right? So this is where we're coming up to this point in this pastime, and I think this is a very it's a very instructive, but it's also a very beautiful pastime in understanding the Lord's mercy, but also understanding his role, and how he can see deeply into every situation and can really understand what is truly happening at the core. And so he even through his mercy, and we'll get in, I don't want to spoil alert too much, but through his mercy to the four Kumaras, he actually enabled them to become pure devotees because they already had all the gyan. They were already fully renounced. They already had all the austerities. So really what was missing? What was missing was the devotion. And we know this from the Yoga Sutras, right? You can go through all the austerities, you can do everything right. However, when you get to the top, if even if you get to that nirvana state, you still have to come back because if you're not in a devotional relationship with the Lord, it's not going to get you far enough. It'll get you so far, but it won't get you far enough. So it is by the mercy of the Lord that the four Kumars actually had the opportunity to not only meet him, but to see his mercy and to see how he handled the situation and to then become pure devotees. And as was brought up yesterday, and they even a whole sampradaya was created from that, from all of this. So then became the four Kumaras, the Kumara sampradaya. So that's a little bit of backstory. Um, that's some backstory into today's verse. Now, here we see this today's verse is really zeroing in on this the perceived mistake that Jai and Vijay had made. And was it a mistake or wasn't it? They were following the orders of the Lord to not let anybody in who was not qualified to enter into the deeper, more intimate space of Vaikuntha. So who is to say? Who is to say but the Lord looked at the situation and he came out objectively. So now he's seeing, okay, maybe Jai and Vijay acted wrongly. So now I have to take responsibility for this behavior because under my instruction, under my guidance, they offended these four sages. And now this is coming back to me. And so Lord Vishnu is recognizing that everything falls under his jurisdiction. It's not he's recognizing it. This is, it's more that Jai and Vijay are seeing this, but Lord Vishnu, everything falls under his jurisdiction. Nothing goes without his hand in it in some way. So he realizes that these two gatekeepers may have wronged the children of Lord Brahma, and he has to take action. So now what we're getting into here, the situation is today's verse is when there is an act that is an offense committed somehow by, a follower, by a disciple, by whomever, by a servant, it does flow back to the master. And how is this so? Well, there's so many different examples of this that we can see even in Shastra, we can see examples of how behavior can roll back to how the behavior can roll back and reflect badly on the greater whole, which might be a family, might be a spiritual master, it might be an organization, an entire country, reflect badly on God. And so an example in Shastra that we can even think we know this pastime very well is Arjuna's refusing to fight. And this isn't, early on in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna throws down his bow. He's just lamenting. He just crumbles under the weight of everything that's unfolding on the battlefield. He doesn't want to kill his family. He sees all of these things unfolding. He's worried that killing off the family will create all of these problems and quarreling and degradation and unwanted progeny. So he's listing all of these things and he's saying, all of this is wrong. If I carry out with this war and all these people die, what will become of the world? But Krishna points something out that's really important. He says, everything's already taken care of under my will. Everything's already done. I've already determined the fate of all of these people on the battlefield. But you are not carrying out your duty. You are not carrying out your duty. Therefore, coming shame to your family. There will be shame to everyone. And now it even reflects back to Krishna, as he is the charioteer. So Krishna is the charioteer that is there instructing him and saying, if you don't do your duty, not only will you look cowardly, but everyone, everything will fall apart, and all be laying on you. There'll be um, shame brought to your family. Everything will fall apart if you don't do your duty. So this is an interesting situation where Arjuna's decision can bring shame to his family, and even because Krishna's his charioteer, he's even reflecting back to the Lord, saying, if you don't do this. So this is an example of how the Lord, the Lord is saying, the acts of the devotee can reflect back. Even a single action can reflect back and negatively impact the entire family, the entire, all of the people, the country, everyone. So I want to read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this and his translation as well. So I read the Srila Prabhupada's translation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the translation is, when a servant commits a sin using the name of his master, the master gets criticized and has his fame destroyed, just as a white spot on the skin condemns a person as a leper. And his commentary is that, but how can the Supreme Lord commit an offense? Even if you do, who could punish you? How can you restrict yourself? And this is a quote. There can be no punishment. Infamy alone will be the punishment. The fame of a master is destroyed by a servant who performs sinful activities in the name of the master, just as white leprosy destroys the skin. People will criticize a person with a white spot, saying this person has leprosy. So what he's, drawing out even more here is to say that the master is ultimately the one that gets, when there's a disciple or someone that has wronged or done wrong, taken action that is sinful, taken action that is offensive, it rolls back to the spiritual master. And um, I'm going to take us to, with that thought in mind. So the spiritual master takes the full responsibility of that. There's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that while I was researching this class a little bit, I came across this really interesting verse that I think kind of ties this all together. And it's Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18. And the translation is, one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. And here it's Prabhupada says here that unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. We have instances in history, and this is Rishabhadev instructions. So, in instances in history and within ISKCON, everything that rolls back to the leader. So, Prabhupada has said, and this verse says that a spiritual master takes very, very strongly. They take to heart what they are passing on to their disciples. Any teacher, they take to heart what they're passing on to their students. And if their students go out and take that and they misconstrue something, or in the name of serving the teacher, they go out and act irresponsibly. In the name of serving the teacher, the Lord, they go out and commit offenses, commit crimes, commit sinful activity. One that is a true teacher, a true spiritual master, is going to look at that situation and say, I've done wrong. I have not properly taught these children. I have not properly taught these disciples. I have not properly taught these people. What am I to do? Because if they take all the teachings, everything that I've given them, and they go out and they commit these offenses, they commit these acts of crime in the name of the teachings, then the spiritual master takes that as a very grave situation with their own within their own advancement. So it's saying that if the teacher is not perfectly situated, He cannot, he or she cannot perfectly to give their disciples the proper understanding. And if you think about Srila Prabhupada, how many letters did he have to write? And I came across one yesterday when I was looking at this verse. I came across one where he was trying to, his disciples were constantly like asking questions like, oh, well, I did this, and this, and because this person upset me, and Prabhupada's like, no, you're not understanding the teachings. You're not understanding the philosophy. And there were so many times he had to chastise and strongly correct his disciples to help them understand you're not clearly understanding my message. You're not clearly understanding the teachings. You are not following Vedic injunction. And he took his responsibility very seriously. This was not something that was whimsical for Srila Prabhupada. And you can see through all of his teachings, through all of the letters, all of the interviews, all of his lectures, even in his purports, how deeply he really takes the personal responsibility that he has. He did not just create these purports. Uh, you know, he wasn't trying to be long-winded, or he wasn't trying to repeat himself. He very carefully crafted these purports in a way so that he was hopeful. He was I suspect hoping to leave a clear legacy of the teachings that would not uh, allow space for misinterpretation, that anyone that was taking in this knowledge would have a clear understanding. And this is the science of the parampara. This is coming down from Lord Brahma, right? So we know that Lord Brahma, we are in that sampradaya. So the four Kumars over, they created their own sampradaya, but Lord Brahma's our sampradaya. And all of this came down through disciplic succession. And Srila Prabhupada took those teachings very, very seriously. It's why he references, his teachers before him, to make sure that he is properly representing his teacher. And he often would represent or refer to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He would refer to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his lectures, and relating that back to what he had learned. He was always trying to be very transparent, knowing that anything he did that was that could have been construed as wrong was going to reflect back to his spiritual master. And he knew that. And he was very careful. And he even expanded open some of the principles within the movement to allow for women to be on the altar, to allow all of us to only chant 16 rounds for taking initiation. So he even relaxed some of the rules, knowing that he had to, in order for him to deliver this message to the West, there had to be some wiggle room. But he always knew that that was always going to be going back to all of his spiritual master and to the parampara, going backwards in time. So Prabhupada took this process very seriously. And like I said, in this Bhagavatam verse, one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. And this is a very strong statement to say that if one takes on even one disciple, even if that is your child, whomever that is, if they can't, deliver them, right? And this is strong. This is very strong. But this is where it comes down to all of the individual personal responsibility to the Lord. And Prabhupada in today's verse references the 6 qualities of a devotee. And I'm going to just read them. These are in Adi Lila. And I'm going to read some of these qualities for reference for today. And so in the Adi Lila, it says, Krishnadas Kaviraj lists the following 26 good qualities of a Vaishnava. He is very kind to everyone. He does not make anyone an enemy. He is truthful. He is equal to everyone. No one can find any fault in him. He is magnanimous. He is mild. He is always clean. He is without possessions. He works for everyone's benefit. He is very peaceful. He is always surrendered to Krishna. He has no material desires. He is very meek. He is steady. He controls his senses. He does not eat more than required. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. He offers respect to everyone. He does not desire any respect for himself. He is very grave. He is merciful. He is friendly. He is poetic. He is expert. He is silent. And it says, a person in Krishna consciousness who is fully devoted to the transcendental loving service of the Lord develops all the godly qualities of the demigods. And so, dovetailing from that into the divine and demoniac natures in chapter 16, the very first verse is Krishna himself. This is Krishna himself telling us what are these qualities again. So the translation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So we've gotten a pretty good understanding of what these qualities are. And in today's verse, Prabhupada says a devotee should be blameless because any offense by the devotee is a scar on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee's duty is to be always conscious in his dealings with others, especially with another devotee of the Lord. And how do we practice this? How do we practice this in our daily lives? And this comes through regular sadhana, from self-assessment, from working on ourselves and spending time with people that have those qualities. The more that we take to understanding what the qualities are, the more that we take to spending time with people who already have those qualities, it kind of rubs off, right? Birds of a feather. So when we spend time with people that already possess many of these qualities, we tend to start to get some of those qualities ourselves simply by association. And this is something I've talked a lot about, and it's been discussed a lot in class, is the concept of association, that the people that we associate with are the ones that we are seeing our own qualities within. So we say, I associate with that, meaning I identify with that. I identify with those qualities. So we want to associate ourselves with people that are of the higher nature, that we can really see ourselves aspiring to. And knowing that this is a journey, right? That I myself am a sadhika. I can speak only for myself, that I myself am a sadhika, and that I do aspire to cultivate good qualities of a Vaishnava, but it takes time. So through that process of devotional service, through the process of cultivating a steady sadhana, that steadiness, the nishta, it can be challenging at times, right? Because we have all of these things in our life that can create diversions and use up our time very quickly. So how do we guard that time so that we are continuing to advance in our own consciousness, right? It's the Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness is the awareness of the Lord and that relationship with the Lord, that we are the awareness that we are always connected to the Lord, but it's also that desire to serve the Lord in everything that we do. So that's our Krishna consciousness, but our overall consciousness as we're stepping out into the world is, what kind of person are we actually presenting to the world? When we go out as devotees, when we are out in the world doing material activities, maybe just going to work or, going to a kid's soccer game or whatever that looks like, we are still representing, whether we are going by our initiated name or we have tilak on or whatever that is, we're still representing Prabhupada. We're still representing the Lord. So we don't know who's actually a devotee of the Lord. We just see people in ISKCON. We're like, oh, well, they're all devotees, and everyone out there is not a devotee. But we don't actually know who's a devotee and who's not a devotee, even within ISKCON. We know, we can be assigned a name and still not be a devotee, but we could be out there in the world, not engaged in reading Bhagavad Gita, but maybe reading the Bible or some other shastra and be a very deep and pure devotee. I spent several years with the Interfaith Philadelphia organization, and they had a group for just for women, and it was called Visionary Women, and it was a beautiful sangha of women from all different faiths coming together, and we would visit places of worship and have deep discussion about interfaith conversations, and it was lovely. It was, for me, that was a highlight for me to be able to see all of the devotional women in all of their all of the colors, all the races, all of the different expressions of love of God that came through. So, and I felt that I was there to represent bhakti, to represent the Vaishnava path, because I was the only one there that was coming from that tradition. And so it was a very interesting role in that group. And so, like I said, even if we're out in the world and we're just in our everyday clothes and maybe a little incognito, we're still representing the Lord. We're still representing Srila Prabhupada. So everything that we do, looking at our actions to say, how can I step out into my life today representing Srila Prabhupada, representing my spiritual master? Maybe we have the deeper connection with our spiritual master, which would flow through to Srila Prabhupada. But how can I step out into my day and well, represent the movement, represent Srila Prabhupada, represent Krishna? And oftentimes it's not by trying to hand them a Bhagavad Gita or, spout out Shastra or anything like that. It's being, let's go back to the qualities, very kind to everyone, not making enemies, being truthful, being equal, not fault finding, being magnanimous, mild, clean, but without possession, working for benefit, being peaceful, right? Nowhere in here does it say anything, but these are internal qualities, right? These are not externalities. These are internal qualities that we can aspire to. And so in today's verse, Prabhupada is pointing out that being a Vaishnava, working toward those qualities is the ultimate goal. As we are working through our own anarthas and anartha nivritti, right? So we're trying to clear through these anarthas. We're trying to improve our sadhana. We're trying to improve our association. We're trying to increase our faith. That all of these things are hopefully bringing us to these higher qualities. Once these higher qualities start to manifest within us, then the devotional component, which, because we're here, hopefully will be moving along with it. Now, the four Kumaras, they worked on all of these qualities without the devotional component. And so it was flipped. But hopefully, because we are here and practicing bhakti yoga, we have the devotional component that we're growing along with the qualities, which is as Prabhupada said, it's the proper way to do it. Otherwise, we will just have to come back and do it all over again. But with our own process of practicing Krishna consciousness and hopefully cultivating some of these qualities, we will thereby strengthen our relationship with the Lord and strengthen our dependence on the Lord. So, so this is really a lot of what's happening today. Lord Vishnu is obviously there is no he's taking on the responsibility for Jai and Vijay, and because he recognizes that he has instructed them in a certain way and realizes that the four Kumaras have been an exception to have come in. They're Lord Brahma's children. And so that they should have been able to come in, but he instructed Jai and Vijay very strictly otherwise, generally. So he's now taking full responsibility for that. And Jai and Vijay have to accept the curse of the four Kumaras. So this is how the story goes. And as the leader of all of creation, Lord Vishnu takes the ultimate responsibility for everything. Although we as humans, jivas, we have the responsibility to act in our best way possible in every situation. And that is a choice. It's a choice if we don't do that that will lead to karmic response, karmic reaction. And when we, this is the way the Lord is, it's settling out, right? This is kind of like the balancing the books at the end of the day, everything that happens. So Lord Vishnu is it's just a balancing of the books. And in this situation, he took responsibility for the offenses that were made. But ultimately, Jai and Vijay still were paying the consequences for that. So, um, because this was so well covered yesterday, and I just wanted to add a few more points. I'm going to stop it here and see if there's any other conversation or comments or anything that anyone would like to add or correct or, bring to the conversation today. Jonah Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrindavaneshwari Prabhu. That was a really great verse and nice class. Thank you. Uh, this is a good verse, I think, to refer back to. And as you were talking, um, I was just thinking how you know, uh, how important our actions do reflect, on our masters, spiritual master organization that we're associated with, and Srila Prabhupada, and then ultimately Krishna. And you see all the wonderful things that ISKCON has done in the world. And but oftentimes it's remembered only by some of the activities that people who acted wrongly have
Mm,
done. And it's a shame, and oftentimes that's the things that people in general remember. They don't remember the 10,000 good things that are done. It's the one thing that can actually spoil, like the spot on the leper. And that was like one takeaway that I pulled from that. And the other one is that I like the point that you made about, whether we have our tilak on or not, we're still representing. And that how life I had situations just the other day at work where you're people constantly being just tempted to react in a certain way. People will stretch you, people will, annoy you, people, we're just always being, I guess, tempted to act and be pulled into our lower nature and respond in a way that may be satisfactory to the rest of the world, but asking the question of like, would Krishna be happy with this? Would my spiritual master be happy with this? If people who know that you're a devotee of Krishna, well, they say, oh, this is how a devotee of Krishna responds to a situation like this. And then just being able to apply that to the rest of my life. The way that we deal with our neighbors, the way we deal with our family members. Uh, anyway, this is really good, very, very good class for me personally. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's interesting what you said. And I was thinking about this when I was reading this verse too. It only just takes one bad situation to completely overwrite all of the good. And we see it all the time. I mean, even with companies, right? How often have we seen like one incident with a company and that happened, and now the whole company has like bad PR for years, right? And so that's just a very material example, but it's how the mind works. The mind loves to generalize and to, and the mind is I don't know why this is, but so often humans just jump on the negative, right? You have to ask, I'm a business owner, so you have to ask for the positive reviews, but people are quick to write a negative review. And we've all seen it. We've totally all seen it. You have people don't just automatically a lot unless they're just so loud and blown away and they're just that kind of person. Most people are going to have a good experience and move on and just keep coming back. And unless they're asked to give a good review, they just won't think of it. But as soon as something wrong goes, they want to tell everybody. They want to tell everybody about all the bad stuff that's happening, and it's just that's the world we live in.
That's true.
And it just taints everything. And so this is where Drona, back to what you were saying too about being a devotee, like how do we respond in our day-to-day lives with our family, with work? And so often we are stretched right to the max. Right to the max, and being able to use some of those skills and practice those Vaishnava qualities, even if we don't completely imbibe them, to even just pick one quality and just practice it. It's like, I'm going to practice patience, I'm going to practice being mild in my behavior today, and just enter into the world for today, practicing that one Vaishnava quality, and eventually it'll start to stick. Um, yeah, Bhagavad Grahi. Oh,
Hare Krishna.
yeah, sorry, Krishna.
So, Drona, I agree 1000% with you, and that's actually something I was going to say is that leading by example, right? Like we don't always have to be in our dhoti or our sari or have our tilak on or even have a sika. It's the way I feel like we live our lives, not only with the devotees but the non-devotees too. And I feel like the non-devotees really pick that up too. Like there's something different about this person, right? Like they never seem angry. They're not yelling. Uh, they don't fly off the handle, right? They're not talking about people behind their back, right? So it's those qualities that I think that we lead by example. That, as you said, Jordanacharya Prabhu, that shines that light on Krishna consciousness. It's something that I always try to live my life by is, I try not to preach, to family or friends or anything like that. And I just kind of live my life. And I hope that they see how I live my life. And maybe one day they say, well, why do you do this? I've had family come up and say that to me, like, why do you get up early? Why do you have that altar in the basement? Why are there flowers down there? Um, why do you eat the way that you do? So I think when they see that and you're able to give that good impression that it means the world, and I'll leave with this. Like I am not perfect. I do lose my temper at times. But my daughter said something to me a little while ago. She was like, I can never tell what kind of day you've had when you come pick me up because you're always the same. Like you're always just you. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like I thought of that in my head. I'm like, that's that even mindedness, right?
Yep.
Of we're just going to take one day at a time. And there are things that I don't say that to be like, look how great I am. I'm saying that because people notice, like Drona said. So I think that's important. So
Yeah.
thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for that additional commentary, because it's yeah, how we present in our world. It's very important. So wonderful. Any other thoughts? Mitravinda
Yes,
Prabhu.
yes, Hare Krishna. I wanted to say that um, a major aspect of what I've heard in the verse was accountability
Hmm.
for how we treat one another,
Mm-hmm.
to extend out of the temples, and how we treat each other, whether someone's watching or not.
Right.
It's very important. Whether someone was in the room when it happened or not, Krishna sees everything.
Yeah.
He's on the tree branch. He's watching while we're doing whatever we're doing. So in that way, no lies can be told. And because compassion is a tenet of the Vedic process and our aspirations as devotees in order to serve Krishna and the living entities, when we're not connecting to ourselves in a way that relates to emotional wellness, emotional maturity, how can we reach those levels if we're not tapped into understanding the feelings of others by the barometer of what our feelings are? Are we in the mood of anger? Are we in the mood of
Mm-hmm.
selfishness?
Yeah.
Are we just trying to survive? Are we defending? And in that way, we lose the essence of the practice of serving ourselves in a way that helps Krishna consciousness flourish and does not leave a negative mark.
Mm-hmm.
And for the good and bad of it, our positions, whatever they may be, mother, father, it has an even greater effect on what is seen and what the outcomes are. As you were speaking of corporations, corporations are held responsible for what those in power do. So it fits with what the verse was. The spiritual master it reflects on the spiritual master, it reflects on the entity.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not perfect, serving on our level, but we can strive to do better with each day. Thank you for the class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the comments. Thank you. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely to me it's worthy of reflection, and it's a daily practice. What Mitravinda Prabhu, you were saying about how do we know if we're not completely tuned into our own emotional biome, right? If we're not tuned into our emotional biome to understand that I am feeling this way, or how am I presenting myself to the world? What does reflection, daily reflection, taking a daily inventory is important through the process. We can't grow if we don't take daily inventory of ourselves. So, because we want to present the best version of ourselves, I hope, for the benefit of Srila Prabhupada, for the benefit of the Lord. So, because as Mitra you said too, another good point is that we can't hide from Krishna.
Yeah.
He knows everything. And so, as much as how every behavior we do, every little thing that we sneak, it's Krishna knows it, and there are karmic reactions.
Yeah.
We can't escape it. We can't. So we might as well come clean at least to ourselves. And just that'll give us a leg up to working through some of those challenges. So thank you. Nice discussion today. I love being with all of you for these classes. Any other last thoughts before we sign off for today?
It's a very delicate thing, Mataji. And whatever we are all discussing, discussing is different from action.
Yeah.
So always, if it is a mother or guru or everybody, first whatever steps they took, we have to follow like that. And even mother also, if sometimes, if your child is doing good things, oh, that mother raised like that.
Yeah.
If child does bad things, that also reflects on mother.
Mm-hmm.
So same way, guru also, whatever we do, good or bad, it reflects on him, not us. We don't care. We don't realize that, but guru has to take all the, like, Vishnu came out of And he gave the darshan to four Kumaras. And he said, oh, sorry if they did like that. That is, I trained them like that.
Mhm.
So he took it like that. So from that, we had to learn a lot.
Exactly. It's
That simple point, that one point Lord Vishnu said, that we had to learn a lot.
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know,
So
it's
I just got that point, I said, we all have to think about it all the time when we behave.
all the time. As you know, elders, even if we're not a parent, I don't have kids, but I have younger siblings and a niece, and
Yeah.
you know, it's I grew up a little bit, and I've said this before. My parents were do as I say, not as I do, and I was always like, that doesn't resonate. You know,
Yeah.
that's
And
not the proper way.
my mother used to say, one finger if you are showing to others, three fingers are showing to your side.
Exactly.
You have to mind your thing, how you are behaving.
Exactly. We have to always be the highest we can in that time, the best we can. So thank you
That's why
all.
thank you very much for nice class.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And yeah, have a wonderful weekend. Vanchakopa,
Wonderful class. Sarvasya kripa sindhubhyo eva
Nivedita, Patitanam,
Patitanam pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo,
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo,
namo
Namo
namaha.
Namaha. Hare Krishna,
Hare
everyone.